Right, so let me
Recording
go ahead to
is
share my screen
on.
right now. Once you can see my screen, just give a thumbs up, right? Give a thumbs up. Can we all see my screen right now? Yes. So welcome to day 5, right? Remember we started from day 1. Day 1 we talked about the introduction. You guys were introduced to the AI automation class. Then also we moved into day 2. Day 2 we spoke about using workflow automation and no code tools, right? And yeah, we talked about how we can use Zapier. We saw why it's very, very important to use automation tools, and we're able to actually build one of these workflow together, right? And some of you guys did an amazing work by also building your automation. I saw the screenshot on the group, and I mean, well done on your end if you were able to complete that aspect also. And we saw how we can basically connect the Zapier to different applications. We saw that Zapier used over 7,000 applications that were available on Zapier, right? Even though some were premium, but at least we're able to see that we could work with some of those important tools out there like Gmail, Google Doc. If you want to go ahead to also use Slack, Notion, it's free for beginners, right? So we talked about Zapier day 2. Day 3 also we moved on, talked about Python for AI automation. And here we were able to do the Python refresher course where we talked about the control statement, the for loop, the while loop. We talked about functions in Python. We talked about the module operations, operators, and the likes. And we also went ahead to talk about working with document loaders and text splitters. All right. We saw why it's very important to use document loaders and text splitters. And you're going to see why it's very important in today's class because today we're going to start building our and we're going to do like an end-to-end in-depth intuition, and we're going to take from scratch till the end. All right, we're going to do everything together. So make sure you pay attention to what we're going to be doing in today's class. All right. We also did like a CLI chatbot where we were able to connect our OpenAI API key. We got OpenAI API key. We're also able to use Grok, the GRO queue with the queue, and we're able to do that, and we're able to build like an interface. All right. So quick one, let's go ahead to look at that interface together that we're able to build, right? So you can see right here that we were able to build something very simple and minimalistic, right? Where we went ahead to put in the model provider where we can select between OpenAI or Grok. And we also saw we can enter our OpenAI API key. So if our provider is OpenAI, obviously we need to put in our OpenAI API key and select the model. We saw the different models that are available on ChatGPT on OpenAI platform, right? Where we saw these like GPT 5.1, there's 4 Turbo, there's 3.5. So we saw a lot of models and we are able to pick out some of those models and put it right in our platform. We also were also able to use Grok and use some models like Llama with 3 million parameters. We're able to do that right here also. And we also went ahead to day 4. Day 4, we talked about LangChain and AI agents, right? I remember yesterday's class was quite interactive where we talked about what AI agents are, why they are very important. And these agents are basically software that are very powerful. They can basically run autonomous tasks. They can reason, they can plan by and basically achieve their goals. And we saw we can use that. I showed you an example of me running an AI agent in my VS Code. I also showed you some examples that ChatGPT also came up with, where there are agents that can go ahead to carry tasks for you, browse websites, filter for the cheapest platform, whatever you are looking for. We saw all of those examples, right? And today we are going to be moving forward and we're going to be diving into document processing and RAGs, right? Remember yesterday we also talked about LangChain, where I told you guys to create an account. And I'm sure you guys did because I saw the screenshot on the group. I told you guys to create an account, which is very important because currently we're going to be building an end-to-end PDF RAG application, and we're going to see how we can trace everything that we are working on using LangChain and Langsmith. All right. So if you have not opened an account, please go ahead to do so. Go to LangChain, just search for LangChain and just open an account. It's pretty much simple and straightforward. And I'm going to teach you how to use it today in our project. All right. So today we're going to be working basically on project setup and getting started. But we've done the day four recap already. But quickly, let me just tell you what we're going to be doing today. So today we're going to dive more into LangChain. We're going to discuss more about LangChain, about the whole ecosystem, about Langsmiths. You're going to see how we can give our application a name and how we can basically connect it, take our API, connect it to our projects, and make sure that whatever question we are asking is being tracked on LangChain. And why is it very important? It's very important because if you are using your OpenAI API key and you say you just want to use that to track your projects, it makes sense, but it won't give you the full option of tracing, which means that whenever you send a particular question to your model, you do not really get a detailed answer or a detailed price of what that is consuming. But with LangChain, once we're able to connect our LangChain with our application, you're going to see how easy it is for us to actually track it using the LangChain tracing the version 2. And we're also going to see how we can basically use our LangChain API key and make all of that work seamlessly. We're also going to give our project a name. We're going to give our LangChain project a name, which is going to be around PDF QA rack application. And you see how everything is being displayed on the dashboard, right? So we're also going to move ahead. We're going to talk about embeddings. I know we've talked about document loaders and text splitters. We're going to move ahead and also talk about embeddings also because embeddings is very, very important. Remember, I said that I'm also going to try to explain the whole end-to-end in-depth intuition of how you can build a RAG application. So make sure to stay focused. And if you have your pen, just jot. And I'm going to share the materials with you guys also in case you need any of that. All right. We're also going to run a full RAG pipeline. And what do I mean by this? I'm saying we're going to build something that it is from start, right? We're going to do the data ingestion, we're going to do the data transformation, we're going to do the embedding, we're going to do the vector DB, which is vector database, and we are also going to do the full rack chaining, right? So we're going to see all of that in today's project. If I'm able to complete today, then tomorrow, obviously, we're going to wrap that up. All right. We're also going to go ahead to do our full project setup and best practices. Now, listen, it's not only about building projects because trust me, I've seen developers out there that what they do is they just write code, basically not structuring, not putting the best practice in place, right? But today we're going to look at how we can go ahead to put in that best practice when we are building a RAG applications, right? And this also applies for whenever you're building a Python project or whenever you're building any project. It's always very good to use the best practice. And I'm going to teach you all of that in this lecture. And after that, we're going to build our own PDF, Q, and A with RAG, obviously, right? So let me just show you what we're going to be building, and we're going to get started with the end-to-end intuition before we go ahead to start writing our code and putting up our project setup. All right. So if you guys can hear me, kindly drop a thumbs up in the chat so that I can know you are following me, so I can know you guys are active. I know you guys are always active. Shmuel, welcome. We have Dave. You guys are always active. So if you can hear me, can you drop a yes in the chat? Okay, thumbs up. Very good. Thank you for that. Right. Build something like this, and you can see what we have right here. Right. We have the PDF care. Then we're going to also tell the user how to the application, where they'll be able to enter the OpenAI API key from the sidebar, or we can set it in our env file, and I'll teach you how to do both of that, right? So bonus mark, how to set it in your env, and also how to enter the the API key on your web interface. And the reason why this is very important is because when you are building applications for some companies would want to require users to put in their own API key, while some companies might want to make sure that whatever API key they are using, it's always set up in the env, so that when they deploy or when they create CI/CD pipeline, they go ahead to just pass in that variable as a parameter, and they can add it to the GitHub environment variable or set it up in the Azure or AWS, and everything is going to work fine, right? AWS using S3 buckets or whatsoever, right? We are also going to, I'm also going to teach you how to upload a document, right? We're going to look at how to read in a document. I'm going to teach you those best practices that you might not have seen before. So make sure to also pay attention. It's going to be like a cumbersome project, right? Then also we're going to like wait and see how our document is going to be processed and indexed, because don't forget, when you upload a document, there are some things that's going to be happening in the background, which is data ingestion, the data transformation, the embedding, the vector db, before the our platform now goes ahead to do the relevant information, right? Retrieve relevant information and display the answer output. I'm also going to see how we can also display the context of where it is coming from. So you have seen it out there before that whenever you are searching for something on ChatGPT, when ChatGPT gives you output, sometimes it shows you that this is where the source is coming from, right? How do they do all of that? We're going to learn it in today's lecture, right? We're also going to view sources in which parts of the document were used to answer. That's what I said right now, which is the context, right? What is going to be our features? Our features is going to be automatic PDF text extraction and chunking. Remember, I already explained what chunking is. We're also going to talk about vector-based semantic search, right? We're also going to do the context-aware answer with source citation, and we're also going to be seeing the history as the user is chatting with our chat bot, right? And we're also going to do adjustable parameters where you can see right here, you're going to see advanced settings. We're going to add that to our project where we can now go ahead to tweak the parameters in case we want our model to answer more deeply or more in depth, right? Basically, we're also going to see how we can integrate LangChain for tracking. Like I said before, we're going to enable LangChain tracing, which is the latest version v2 in the virtual environment file, in our env rather. All right, we're going to see how we can upload PDFs and work with that. And once we do all of this and we upload a document, this is what we're going to have, right? Where we have our uploaded documents. You can see I put in my resume right here, and I was able to select my model, put in my API key, use advanced settings also. Then we're able to ask the question, hello. It said, hello, how can I assist you? And it's giving us the context and the source, right? You're also going to see that we have this tell me about in your life experience, and here it's giving me my detailed experience. Obviously, it's getting everything from this PDF that we uploaded. And trust me, you would want to agree with me that if I go ahead to search for this on Google is or using ChatGPT is not going to give me all of this because it's not context aware, right? And that's why we really need to know how to build this RAG application. So with that being said, I know I've said a lot. We're going to build something very simple and also for something very, very technical. So please make sure to pay attention. I'm going to teach you the step-by-step process. I'm going to show the architecture for you of RAG applications. So with that being said, let's go ahead to get started with today's lecture. All right. So very good. So first, I'm going to go to my Mirror dashboard, and let's go ahead to basically understand these RAG applications very well and how they work. We have already explored some parts, right? So let's just wait for this to reconnect quickly. So we've explored some part already, and we've seen how we can use some of this platform, right? But let's go ahead to do something quickly. Let's do. All right. So we have something like this first. So remember, when you are building your RAG application, the first thing that we're going to need is we're going to need our data source, right? And why is this very important? This is very important because without having our data source, there's no how we are going to basically do anything, right? So data is very important. And don't forget, the first thing that we need to do is to what? Is to load in our data set. And we've done different projects on how we can load in our data sets. And let me go ahead to open that project again. So I'm going to do gold space dots, open that in our platform right here. And yeah, right here you can see we've talked about document loaders if you remember, right? So I'm going to explain this to you very well. So let me do minus. Yep. So first thing is the data source, right? And what is this data source about? This data source is just basically how we go ahead to actually what to load our data, right? So we go ahead to load the data right here. All right. We need to load the data. And basically this data can contain anything, right? We can have a text, right? You can agree with me that we can also have PDF. We can have PDF files, right? Not only that, we can also have we can have a JSON file, right? Very good. We can have PDF, we can have JSON. We can say we want to load in, let's say we want to load in Wikipedia documents. Um, mm, okay, let me go ahead and correct this. We can load in Wikipedia, right? What other thing again can we load in? There are numerous things that we can load in actually if you want to ingest data. I know we can load in PDF, we can load in that, we can also load in websites, right? So in case you want to load in website also, it depends on how your data set is. So we also have from LangChain community, from document loaders, we also have what? Web based loader. So in case you want to load like a website or whatsoever, you can actually still go ahead to do that, right? So whatever you want to load, you need to know how to basically do that. And how do you do that? It's actually very, very simple and straightforward. You just need to know where it's coming from. So let me just guys cancel this. So you just need to know where if you are loading a document, a text loader, you need to use text loader, obviously. If you are loading a PDF, you need to use PDF loaders and the likes, right? So you can also do document loaders, import the web-based loader if you want to use web-based loader. In fact, you can also load archive, right? In case you want to load like all these documents that are being written, like I know you guys must have heard of it before. So archive, right? Is it ARXIV, right? And how do I know all of this? Basically, if you go to LangChain document loaders, there are a lot of document loaders that you can use when it comes to LangChain. And I told you earlier on that whatever you want to do, just make sure that you are checking the documentation. Everything I'm giving you is coming from these documents, from this documentation, right? You can see we also have CSV loaders. You can see that we can load web, we can load PDF. So there are a lot of numerous stuff that you can load in Google Drive, Tweet, Reddit. So there's a lot, and that's why LangChain is very powerful. You can see WhatsApp, Discord, whatever you want to load. Just make sure you just know how to. Once you can know how to load just one, obviously, when you follow the documentation very well, you'll be good to go, right? So let's go ahead to something else. So after we have loaded our documents, so let's just search for something quickly. Let's search for arrow so that you just know how it's going. Right. So obviously, after we've loaded our documents, we need our next step. And what is our next step, right? Our next step is going to be what? Data transformation, right? We are going to need the data transformation. And I can't overemphasize on this because obviously, if we have our data, I told you guys that we can't actually go ahead to pass in all of those data to our model. It will not really make sense because it's just like as if we are overfeeding the data. So we need to actually transformation. So actually need to transform this data. Why? Because it's very important. If we don't do this, if we don't break down our data into smaller chunks, then trust me, we're going to have issue. Especially when it comes to the token, SP, especially when it comes to the token, managing token, how the LLM is basically receiving the information, it's going to actually cost us a lot, right? So that's why we really need to know, we really need to do our data transformation. And when it comes to data transformation, you would agree with me that we are talking about text splitters right here, right? Where you have, maybe you might have something like this. So let's say you were able to load the documents right here, and you have something like this right here, right? We have this document like this right here. It can be two, so you can just make it two like this. So you might have a document like this right here, and when you actually have this, you need to turn it into something like this, right? So let me just do this for you guys here. Turn it something like this, right? Right here. So once you have this data like this written right here, we need to turn it into what? Smaller chunks. And that's what we did in our previous class, right? Because it's very important. Text splitters, if we don't turn this data into smaller chunks like we have right here, then we're going to have issues, right? So now, after we have this data like this, then we're now going to have something similar to this, right? So once you have something like this, we're going to turn it into something small like this. That's going to be very small, and we'll have which is going to be broken down into smaller pieces, right? So we're going to have something like this, right? Something like this again, and we'll have something like this, just something like this, basically showing that we are broken it down into smaller steps, right? Um, so basically, our data is going to turn from something like that we have here, like this. So let me just copy this. Mm, see if I can copy all of this. Okay, I can't do that. But basically, let me see. So let me just zoom in so that I can make sure I'm getting everything very well. This, right? We can just go ahead to replicate. Oh, we can do that already. So let me just take it back. All right, so we're going to have something like this basically. Yes, exactly. So after we split our document, we're going to have something like this basically. So basically, something that we have that was basically as organized as this before. I'm going to just put one more here again. Just make sure you guys follow along, right? And right there, we're going to have something like this right here, and we're going to basically have it right here. So basically, what we're saying right here is that when we have this bunch of documents right here that is actually together, once we do our data splitting, then it's going to turn to something like this, right? It's going to break it down into smaller chunks, right? So if you guys have any question, please do well to go ahead to ask me. I'm always here to reply you. Obviously, once we have this, right, don't forget that this document loaders also is going to be coming from here, right? We're going to have something like this right here. This document loaders can be anything like this right here. This is data we're loading. When it comes here, we turn it into this splitting of data, right? And don't forget that after splitting our data, what do we need to do? We need to also create what? Embeddings, right? It's very important. We really need to create embeddings, and that's why we're going to have um, different embedding techniques right here. OpenAI also have their own embedding technique, and I will show you how to also use that, right? We're going to embed, right? Basically, when we are embedding, what are we basically doing? We're saying that, oh, whatever output that we have right here, so let me just go ahead to copy this. All right, so we're saying that, so let me just zoom in to make sure that I'm taking the right thing. Yeah, exactly. So we're saying that whatever output that we're having right here, good. So we're saying whatever output that we're having right here, we are going to paste it right here also. So we're saying it's coming from here, right? So whatever embedding, whatever size we decide to actually split our data in, we are going to take that right there, turn it into some embeddings. Let's just delete this and make sure that they are off because we don't need this right here again. Right. Very good. So whatever output we get right here, which is the data transformation that we've done, whatever we get out there, we're going to take it and turn it into embeddings, right? So let me just put embeddings. And if you remember yesterday, I told you guys about what embeddings are, right? So remember I told you that what embeddings are basically in nutshell, is that embeddings are just they just take basically your data and turn it into a number representation, right? So basically, an embedding is just representing data. So it can be either text. So whatever data you try to load in right here, It's either text, PDF, chasing loader, Wikipedia, web-based loader, archive, WhatsApp loaders, or anything you try to load in right here, and it turns it to and it splits it. Then it takes whatever you've loaded, either data, images, audio, and it turns it into a list of vectorized formats, which is in numbers. And basically, what this means is it captures the underlying meaning of or its features. So once we have something like this that is already embedded, then we now have like a text right here where we're going to have something like this, maybe 0.3, we have like 0.4, we have like 0.5, and so on and so forth. So we can have like multiple embeddings. Sometimes it's always very, very large, and you will see what I'm talking about once we do like an example, right? So you can have an embedding like this also, and like this also, right? So this can be different ones. It can have like different values. Basically, what it does is it just shows you the representation of your data in a more vectorized format, right? So I hope you guys are following me, right? So after we have our data source, goes to data transformation, we go, then went there to embed it. Then we now have our next step, which takes the what basically just takes the embedding that we have right here and store it in a vectorized form, right? And that's where vector DBs comes in. So what we just do is we're going to have something like this. Um, Something like this. Basically, we're going to have something like this right here, because don't forget that's coming from our embedding step, right? So we're going to have something like this right here, right? What it does is it goes ahead to store it in a vector DB. So right here we also have vector store DB, right? So it's very, very important. And basically, I know I'm explaining right now. Once you start writing the code, you will see what I'm talking about. So we just have something like a database format. Let me see if I can see one. Into data base. Let's see if you can see something that can represent that. Let's see, we can't find any icon right now. Let's see, DB. I can't find any icon right now. So let's just use this for now, right? So basically, we just take it and store it in a vector database. So let's just use text to represent what we have here very well, right? Take this right here, and what we have right here is just like a vector DB, right? Now, what happens next when we have this vector DB? Don't forget again, if you are confused at any point, just make sure to draw my attention. I'm going to explain to you very well, right? So after we have this step finally done, after we have all this step finally done, what happens is we now go ahead to pass it to our LLM, right? That's when we create sort of a chain whereby we tend to feed our LLM with the vector DB, the large language model that we want to use, and it goes ahead to retrieve the relevant information, right? So after this, we just go ahead right here and we just go ahead to pass it to an LLM, right? So this LLM can be whatever LLM that we decide to use, right? So let's just create a new box right here. A new box right here, right? And right here, we just go ahead to basically pass it to an have the question right here. So here we're going to have like question. So right here, we're going to have our question, right? Our question is also going to go with this. And also we're going to pass in our vector DB right here. So we're going to have something like this, basically. Different formats, right? It can be as many as possible. Basically, what it do for us is once we have all of this in a vectorized database, we tend to pass it to our LLM. Going to try that very soon. Just make sure you follow along. Follow along, very good, right? And what it does is it goes ahead to now retrieve relevant information, right? So now how it retrieve relevant information now differs, right? There are different type of different information, and don't forget that when we are passing it our question also, I want to give it to the LLM, we have to pass in some important things. So we need to also pass in Let me see if I can grab an icon right here quickly. Sorry. Don't forget, when we are passing this to our LLM, we need to pass some important information also, which is what the prompt that we want to use. So let me just hit another color right here, and we also need to pass in. Let me see. Good. So right here we have two things that's going to be passing through. Right, we need to pass in our prompts. Right, so passing our prompts. Right, so this prompt is going to go in. We're also going to pass in our LLM model. So whatever LLM model we want to use, which can be GPT 4.5, GPT 4, whatever thing we want to use, we're going to pass it to it. Then after we now get to finally get our output, right? So after this, after we pass it to our LLM, we now tend to get our output. Let me see.
From CapCut, do you like this template?
All right. Go to custom one so I can check. Okay, it's clicking with it. Well, let's just create a new one right here. So right here, what we have right here is just we have our output right here, right? Basically, you can see how simple or easy it is. Once you can understand this process, trust me, whatever you want to do, whatever you're trying to do, you're going to basically going to. So let me just put the text right here, and we get our what answer, right? And also we can also call this our output, right? You can call it our output right here. Yes, so basically, I hope you guys understood what I did right here. So this is just the steps that you need to take when you are building a RAG application. Once you can understand this, then writing the code is going to be seamless, right? So let me go ahead to explain to you again.
From Teams,
All right.
set data pipeline.
So let me just guys. So when we have a data, right? Basically, what we're doing is we're taking those data, either text, PDF, JSON, Wikipedia, whatever we're trying to do, we pass it to we do our data loading, then we transform the data, right? Where we turn those PDF or whatever we have right there, we turn it into smaller chunks. And after that, after we take those smaller chunks, we turn it into an embedding file, which is basically zeros and one representations. Then we pass it to our vector DB. We store those vectorized formats into a vector database. Then after vector database, we now have our question where we tend to now retrieve relevant information based off of the question that we passed and also from the vector database that we add right here. So let us put like VDB vector database, right? Same thing for the same thing for for the remaining ones also. Then you pass it to our prompt and our LLM. So this prompt will be like you're an helpful assistant, help me create something like that. So that's how our prompt is going to be like, right? So your prompt basically depends on how you want your LLM to be very creative, how you want to answer question. You can tell it if you don't know the answer, make sure you don't also reply. So after you pass in that prompt, now you pass it that LLM also. LLM is can be GPT-5, it can be Llama Index, it can be whatsoever you decide to pick actually. Then after we now get our output, right? And what are examples of vector database? Remember I mentioned it in yesterday's class that we have different examples of vector database. We have the FIAS, which is the Facebook AI similarity search. We have the Chroma DB, right? We have the Pinecone, and so on and so forth, right? We have the Pinecone and so on and so forth. So these are different embeddings that we have, all right? And when it comes to retrieval chain also, I'm going to teach you how to do all of that, right? How does this retrieve relevant information? It does that by using similarity search technique, and that's what we're going to use also, similarity. So similarity search. So that is what we're also going to use also, right? So yes, with that being said, let's go ahead to set up our project now that we understand what we're going to do. We're going to use Streamlit, and we're also going to use some requirements some LangChain libraries. We're going to use ChromaDB libraries, OpenAI obviously, and LangChain community. Right. So let's go ahead to do our project setup. Right. I'm going to create a new file. So I'm going to do CD, and I'm going to create a new project folder. Right. So I'm going to do CLEAR just to clear my screen. And I'm going to create a new folder. To create a new folder, you do mkdir, which means make directory. And here we're going to create a new folder. We're going to name it, let's just name it PDF rag app, right? Now, once we have that already, we can change into that directory, call it PDF, right? PDF rag app. We go ahead to open it in VS Code. How do we do that? We do CODE space, then we have dots, all right? Enter. Very good. Now it goes ahead to open it in a new VS Code. Let me see, we're supposed to have that open. Let's run the command again, code dots. It's supposed to open it in VS Code for us, but it's bringing us back here. Let me see. Let me just make sure that the file is already opened. Okay, it's opened right here. So let me just bring it right here for us. So very good. Again, you can actually use agents to build this. If you want to template your project, you can use agents for that. But I'm going to be teaching you best practice, right? Because first time when you are building a project, you really need to understand the in-depth intuition. You need to understand how everything is being structured, right? Because if you don't do that, obviously we can go ahead to tell you how to create everything for us, right? But you need to understand what is really going on at the back end of the project. We need to understand the structure. If you do not understand the structure, trust me, if you do not understand everything that I said right here, when you are building your application, you might just get confused, right? So right here, I'm going to go ahead to create a new folder, right? I'm going to create a new folder, and you're going to see how I'm going to structure everything for you. So when you're creating a new Python application, actually when you're building LLMs application, if you have like a source, so this your source is where all your important components are going to go in. So right here, we can go ahead to create a new component folder. And inside this components folder, we can have different applications, right? Because if you go ahead to look at the what we're trying to replicate right here, you see that right here we have this component, right? This is like a full component itself. And we have the sidebar, and we have the chat interface, which is this. So let's go ahead to just do that quickly. So we have the sidebar. So we're just gonna do sidebar sidebar.py and click enter, right? We're also going to do the chat interface. So right here, we can do new file. I will do chat underscore interface dot py. All right. And don't forget that because we are trying to basically build a reusable component in Python, you need to have your words init.py, right? So underscore underscore init.py underscore underscore. So sorry, underscore init underscore dot py, right? And basically, this is where this component is basically going to get called first whenever you run this, whenever you call any function in this particular folder. So here it's going to be our UI components, so that we know that this is what we're putting right here for the RAG app, right? So something simple like that. So we have this component right here. Next thing that we also need to have is, aside from this component, we also need to have our configuration file, because if you notice, we have this GPT, OpenAI, we also have this upload PDF. So we need to have a file that we're going to also configure most of these things that we're going to be running, right? Which we're going to call it our settings, right? So right here, we can just have a new folder also. And you can see how I'm structuring this project, right? We're going to have a new folder also. And right in this folder, I'm going to call it config, right? Because this is where all our configurations is going to go in, right? So I can create a new file right here. Obviously, we need to do what? Underscore underscore init underscore underscore dot py, right? And right here, we're going to have our what? We're going to have our configuration module, right? So just listen. I'm going to take it very slow so that you guys can understand and rewatch the video if you want to rewatch. So in case we don't even finish the project today, we would also take it slow pace and also complete it tomorrow. All right. So don't forget that this configuration is going to be for our what settings.py settings.py. So yeah, this is where we're going to have all of those important settings like the prompts, the LangChain, where we're going to import the env environment and things of that nature, right? Also we also need to create another new file, which is the what utils, right? So create a new folder, call it what utils. And when we are done, I will show you how you can. Obviously, I've showed you guys already yesterday, but I'm going to show you again how we can use this agent to just build like a comprehensive documentation for us. All right, create the project structure and write the documentation for us, and we go ahead to review and see if it makes sense. Then we go ahead to actually accept those changes. So here is where all our utility modules are going to go in. So init underscore_py. So here we're going to have all our utility, right? We're going to have all our utility modules right here. And this is where we're going to have like our PDF processor um, .py. And basically, what is this PDF processor going to do for us, right? So this is where we're going to actually process all the utilities that we want to use, like maybe format the documentation, the docs, which is the document when the user uploads it. Also, how we're going to process the PDF, right? Where we're going to do those our loading of our documents, our text splitter, our embeddings, and our vector store. So this is where we're going to do all of that right here. All right. And then after, we're also going to have like a RAG chain. And remember, I told you that whenever after we are done with building all of this, we're going to have like a chain right here, which is going to now connect the system prompt, the question that the user is asking, then pass it to the LLM for us to get our answer. So we're going to have that right here also, which is under the utils. And right here, I'm going to say, I'm going to name it, let's just call this rag chain.py, right? So we have our utils folder completed, right? So after our utils folder, basically, we have our source pretty much up and running, right? That's pretty much it under our source. But since this is also a reusable component for this source, we're going to also create a init py for this because this is also modules that we're going to be calling, right? So I'm going to create a new file for this right here. I'm going to name it __init __.py, right? And right here, we can just say, okay, this is where our rag chats bot application package. This is where we're going to have our rag bot application package, which basically contains the components, chat interface, the configurations, the utils, then this obviously this usable components, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it for the source. And don't forget that whenever you're creating obviously a project, you need your words env. So right here, we're going to do our .env, right? And what are we going to have in this our environment variable? We're going to have first our words open AI underscore a API underscore key, right? We're going to have that. We also need so we also need LangChain tracking configuration. And this is very important, right? The three variables that we're going to need is what we're going to need. Okay, we're going to need our LangChain tracing. We're going to need, we don't really need our LangChain endpoint right here. We just need the LangChain tracing, LangChain API key, and the LangChain project, which are just going to call it like PDF, Q, and A, RAG system. All right. I hope you guys are following me. Please kindly confirm if you can hear me very well. If you can, please just give a thumbs up, right? So I can know you guys are following me. So now we need this, right? Our LangChain tracing, which means that we are telling LangChain that yes, we need to track. Okay, did somebody just raise their hand? Okay, good. You guys can hear me very well. All right. So, okay, good, good, very good. So now let's go ahead to grab our LangChain API key. Wema, you have your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead quickly before we continue?
I'm sorry. No, I don't have anything.
So what did you say?
Yes, I'm okay. Just a mistake. I wanted to dump up, but unfortunately, I ended up raising my hand.
Oh, okay, okay, all right, no issues. Good. You can go ahead to meet your mic. Thank you. All right, so yeah, let's continue. So let's go ahead to grab our LangChain API key. Don't forget, I told you how to do that already. If you have not created an account, just go ahead to create an account. So let's go to LangChain. Right. That's spelled very well. LangChain, yeah, very good. So LangChain, let's go ahead to sign in again. Just take me to my dashboard obviously because I've signed in already yesterday. Um, so let's just wait for this to load up. Yeah, so you can see everything is being tracked in Langsmith. All right. You can see it's been a while I've actually used this, but let's go ahead to create our API key, right? So right here, you can come here, put a new API key. This API key, let's just call it PDF system. Call it PDF rack system. That makes mistake here also. That's why, yeah, very good. So right here, rack system token, yes, workspace. You can just pick our workspace one. Yes, let's leave it to never, right? You guys should not use my API key, please. You can just go ahead to create your own API key. It's free, right? So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to replace that with this right here, right? And also, we would need an OpenAI API key. So let me just go ahead to grab my OpenAI API key and paste it right here so that we can use that for our application. And we're also going to use the API key for, in case you want to also put it in our, what's it called, dashboard right now. So this is our OpenAI API key. We have that right here. LangChain, good to go. We also have our LangChain API key right here. Um, which is this, and we also have our LangChain project name, which is the PDF QA rack system. So once we set this up, you will see how everything is going to be reflecting on our LangChain. So yes, don't forget, if you don't copy the API key once, you cannot see it again. So you need to make sure that you copy it after you create it, right? So let's go ahead to continue since we have done that already. So yeah, so we have our environment set up strongly. Let's go ahead to create our requirement.txt. Right. You also need requirement.txt. Very good. So now for this requirement.txt, we're also going to need our readme, obviously. Readme.md, right? So now for this our requirement.txt, obviously, what are we going to need? So I can go ahead to review this back. So our requirement.txt, we're going to need obviously our LangChain, right? We're going to need OpenAI. We're also going to need LangChain, LangChain dash community, right? We are going to need Python dash dots. Now, how do I know this? Everything's already in documentation and I've done research, right? So make sure that you are following documentations. If you have any issues, you can ask chatbots, you can use ChatGPT, you can research just to make sure that you understand what you are doing, right? So we have python.environment. We need PyPDF, PyPDF, because we are going to be working with this. We're going to be loading documents via PDF format. We are also going to need Chroma DB. Now, can somebody tell me why we need Chroma DB in the chat so that I can know you're following me? Why do we need Chroma DB? Why do we need Chroma DB in the chat? Or does anyone want to talk?
Can you please mute my
Very
mic?
good.
I don't know what I did.
Very good, very good. Sammy Lean, I really love that for vector store. I'm very glad that you guys are following. All right, so we also need LangChain underscore chroma, right? And what else again do you need? We also need Streamlit. Yeah, Streamlit. Right, so this is what we need right here. So once we have this, I think we are pretty much good to go. If we need any other library, we are going to be installing it along as we continue with the course, right? So I'm going to go ahead to basically create a virtual environment, right? So now, how do I create a virtual environment? First, I'm going to deactivate my base environment. I'm using conda, so I just do conda deactivate, right? And I'm going to do clear. You can see it's no more highlighted here again. And let's go ahead to create a new virtual environment. And how do I create a virtual environment? I'm using UV. I'm just going to say UV, then VENV. And you can see right here, we already have our virtual environment created right here with Python 3.1, 3.4. So right here, we now need to activate this virtual environment that we have created. And how do we activate that? We just come here and we go to bin. You can see activate. So all we have to do right here is just to say source, and we're going to say .venv, and we're going to go to our bin, and we're going to say activate. And once we activate that, you're going to see that it's going to be written right here. Our PDF rack application virtual environment is now active. So once we have this active already, what we need to do right now is just to install the requirement that we have right here. So to install it, I'm just going to say uv pip install -r what requirements .txt. I'm going to click enter. So this should actually get up and running for us and install all our lang. Oh, sorry, you can see I made mistake. It's supposed to be LangChain. So let's go ahead to correct that. LangG. So LangChain community. All right. Very good. In case you guys see any error, also just draw my attention to you so that we can correct that immediately. All right. So it's going to go ahead to install. Don't forget that we also need our base. Oh, we have another error again. LangChain chroma not found. All right. So it should be LangChain lang. Very good. So we can run that again. Make sure that everything is working fine. And now let's create our base Python file. Now this base Python file is where we are going to call all of our functions, our modules that we've written, then run Streamlit via this based one. I'm going to call it rag underscore chat bot.py, right? So now this is where we're going to have all of our function being called, right? So we'll have something like dev main right here, and we'll have something like this. Let's just say print hello, right? And that's what we're not going to do our I'm sure you guys are pretty much familiar with this if you have used Python before. I'm not going to say if underscore name is equals to underscore main, then call our main file. So that's just this is what it's going to be like. So let's just wait for this to get installed, and we're going to start kicking off the project. All right. But don't forget again, before we start that, in case you want to look at how embedding works in OpenAI, you can just search for OpenAI embeddings. Okay, so let's go to vector embeddings. All right, so you can see how OpenAI embedding works. So we have this text3 small embeddings in case you want to use that, which my use, right? So yeah, so if you want to create embeddings, we're going to create embeddings via that. So we have just client to embeddings of create our embeddings, and you can see that once you create an embedding, the embedding is going to return what some sort of vectorized format for you. Basically, what happens to this vectorized format? Basically, if you pass in a text like "Hi, my name is Dave," for example, it's going to turn those bunch of text into what vectorized format. And you can see right here, it's using text embedding 3 small. And there are also free ones that you can use. Don't forget, OpenAI, you have to have credits. So if you go to Hugging Face Embeddings, so just click right there. You see that there are also some free models that you can go ahead to use for your Hugging Face embeddings, which is also very free and very similar. So if you just go to models, so for Hugging Face, you also need to create your Hugging Face account, create a token, and you'll be good to go basically, right? Um, so let's just wait for this to load up. You can search for embeddings. I know I've used some of Hugging Face embeddings before, and trust me, it's also very very good, right? So let's just wait for this to load up. I think our internet is quite slow a bit. So you can see this awesome model. By the way, if you guys want to see the top trending models that are trending weekly or daily, just go to artificialanalysis.ai. So let me go ahead to drop this link for you guys in the chat. So once you go to artificialanalysis.ai, you're going to see those models that are trending weekly, daily, analysis, and all of that. So let's see what I think we have a little bit of slow network right here. But with our finger crossed, hopefully we get that working very soon. So if it does not work, I might need to change the internet a little bit because this is quite slow. Um, okay, very good. You can see some of these models that we have for okay, let's do embeddings. Mm, no, what? Let's go ahead to read this. Yeah. So um, okay, very good. Right. So you guys can actually go ahead to read out this documentation. In case you want to actually use free open source model. Yeah. So what you will need to do actually is to download this model. So you can see this model exactly. This is the model I was looking for. Sentence transformer, all meaning L6 V2. So this model is very very popular. So if you look for this actually, it's very very popular when it comes to working with embeddings in Hugging Face, right? So let's see if you can see it. Yes, this is it, right? And you see how many downloads it has when I open it. And we can see 144 million downloads, right? Let's refresh this page. And basically, it's very, very good when it comes to working with embeddings. You can see this is an embedding technique. So you guys can go ahead to just check out this one in case you want to use free embeddings. If you want to use OpenAI, you can go ahead to use OpenAI also. While that load, let's just go ahead to see our okay, very good. So we have our libraries installed successfully. There was no error, and you can see that it was also pretty much fast, which is why I would also prefer you guys also use UV. So you can go ahead to clear, and we would be good to go. All right. So first things first is let's go ahead to even build our components, our reusable components, our chat interface, and also our configurations, right? So let's go to our configuration because that is pretty much easy. We need to just go ahead to load all of these environment variable and make sure that everything is working fine, right? So right here, I really love writing comments. So my student writing comments most of the time. That's because in case you guys want to um, go through the project, you're going to see what a particular code or what a particular block of code is doing, and you're going to understand what to do from there. So right here, we'll just say configuration settings, for the, I will say, RAG chat bot application, right? And what do we need to import? We need to import OS, which is our operating system. We need to also import .env. Then we go ahead to what, load our .environment variables right here. So this is how we do it. Load underscore .env. I'm sure you guys are also very familiar with this. So the first thing that we need to do is we would need to do our langsmith configuration, right? Basically, we need to get our langsmith tracing. So we're going to say lang, um, let's just say lang chain. We'll call it lang chain underscore tracing, right? And we'll say underscore v2, right? Um, v2 lang chain underscore tracing, our version 2. And what we're going to do is we're just going to load it from our environment variable, right? Um, right here. So we'll just say os dot get env. Very good. And right here, we're just going to put our words LangChain underscore tracing, and we'll pass it to be equals to what? True. Next thing is we need to load our LangChain API key, right? So we say our LangChain underscore API underscore key, right, will be equals to lang os.get environment LangChain API key. And also, we don't need this endpoint right here. We can just go ahead to just load this only. So basically what this means is, what this means when you are passing your environment variable is just a fallback, right? So in case this API key does not get loaded, this is going to go through the fallback. So that's why it's there, but I'm pretty much sure that we are loading it very well. So again, let me just confirm. Let me go back to our environment variable, copy this LangChain API key, make sure that I paste it here. So it's the same thing, right? So we don't need command right here. The next thing we need to also load is our LangChain project. So we'll say our LangChain underscore project, right, is equals to, and we'll say os.get environment LangChain project. Let's confirm that from our env again, which is correct. Yes. So you have to be very, very sure. I really love copying and pasting so that you can see. I forgot to write A again, right? So you can see that's why I really love copying and pasting. Someone might commuted.
Check the first LangChain project.
LangChain. Oh, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. So that's why I really love copying and pasting again. All right. So yeah. So we have that configured for Langsmith. So basically, what this means is whenever we run our application, you can see right here, we're going to have like a new line called. So this new line is going to be called. Where is it? It's going to be called PDF QA Q&A RAG system. We're going to have something like that right here. And once we click on it, we're going to be able to trace it. We're going to see each question that we're asking, how much is it taking, how much token are we using. It's going to show us all the statistics and everything, right? Memory management, everything is going to be right here in LangChain. And that really makes sense because if you are building a project and other users are using your applications, right? You want to make sure that you are tracking what the user is asking. You are tracking if the chatbot is able to answer the question. You are also tracking if the time response. You are tracking the latency rate, everything, right? So that's why we really need to actually configure these three guys right here, right? So the next thing that we'll also configure is our OpenAI API key. Remember, I told you that I'm going to tell you how to load your API key from your environment and use it in the project. And in case the API key is not available, we're going to also go ahead to what? We're going to go ahead to allow the user to input their own OpenAI API key, right? So right here, I'm going to go ahead to say my Open AI configuration, and I'm just going to say my Open. See, this is
Sorry,
writing my API key for me. Can you
sorry,
see this population?
you're inside the
Yeah.
environment variable.
Oh, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's what we did that in the settings. Yep. Okay. I was just wondering that why is it giving me auto completion? But yeah, we have to have OpenAI API key, right, to be equals to OpenAI. So let's copy this to make sure that we're just fine. OpenAI API key. And we're going to set it equals to os.get environment OpenAI API key. Very good. So that's for OpenAI API key. That's all you need, right? Also, we'll need for model option. Right. So if you remember that right here, I showed you that users should be able to select the model that they want to use. Because I mean, if you go to OpenAI, you would see that it makes more sense because we have different models available right here. So we can actually give the user the freedom to select whatever model that he or she wants to use for basically answering questions. You can see we have like almost more than 50 models right here. So right here, we'll just put our model option, and I will say our available. Now, when you are building, when you're writing configuration, when you're writing settings, it's preferable you actually use snake naming convention and also use capital letter throughout, right? That's based off of experience, right? So I'm going to name this available underscore models, right? And right here, you can put in whatever model that you want to use, right? But right here, we'll just use some basic model. We can use, like I see, we have some suggestion right here for my copilots. So we can use 3.5 double. No, we can't. We shouldn't use this. We can also use GPT. We can use GPT 4.0 mini. So 4.0. We have GPT 4.0 mini, and I know we also have GPT 4.0 without the mini. So yeah, let's just go with this, right? Obviously, if you want to add more models, you can just come here and check out the models and go ahead to add them, right? But don't forget that the higher your model, the more you're going to be charged for your OpenAI for your query, right? So that's why we're just going with smaller models for now, just for testing. Later on, when you want to push to production or when you want to do whatever you want to do, you can just go ahead to add like more complex models so that you have standard or quality outcome, but you're going to be charged more. Don't forget that. All right. So we can also have our default model in case the user does not select anything. So we can say our default model and we can use GPT 4.0. Actually, like GPT 4.0 mini. So we can use for our default model in case the user does not pick any of this model, right? So after that, let's go ahead to have our default rack configuration. And basically, you can see why best practice is very important. All right. So for this default rack configuration, remember when we treated our last class, I told you that whenever you're doing text splitter, you need to pass in the chunk size, you need to pass in the chunk overlap, also temperature and the K value. And I'll explain to you what temperature and K value is also once we start using it, right? But let's go ahead to pass in some defaults. Default underscore chunk size, right? I will give it 1000. Don't forget it's 1000 that is mostly the default output. We have chunk overlap also. We're going to give it 200. Default temperature is just like how creative we want it to be, and we're going to take default underscore temperature, and we can give it this like a 0.3, and we'll also give it default. We'll have default underscore K underscore chunks, right? And we'll just give it a value of like 3 for now, right? Very good. So that's our configuration for our RAG. Let me just close this one, not using this for now. So yeah, other default configuration also that we are going to have is let's say the system prompt. Yes, system. And why is the system prompt very important? Obviously, you have seen that we've talked about system prompt when we build our minimum chatbot. You can see we have system prompts right here. So this is also a default configuration because this is not going to change, right? Except if you want to play around with it. So right here, we can just come here and just give like a default system prompt. So system underscore prompt. So we can say you're an helpful assistant answering. We can say answering questions. based on the provided context. Don't forget, because we are obviously going to, let's use like a multi-line string right here so that we can actually take this into the next line, right? Because our prompt is going to be actually quite long. Now, so yes, use based on the provided context, right? So what we want it to do, we'll say we want it to use the following, because obviously we're also going to pass in the context of the PDF that was uploaded, right? So we'll say use the following pieces of context to answer. That's whatever context we give into it, right? So we'll say to answer the question at the end, right? And we can also say if you don't know the answer, just say that you don't know the answer, so that our chatbot is not actually saying something that is outside the context of the PDF that was uploaded, right? So say if you don't know the answer, try not to make up the answer. Just say you don't know it. Don't try to make up the answer, right? And we can also tell it to keep um, the answer, or we can also say keep your answer short, concise. We can say short, concise, and most important, we can tell it that also um, and relevant, right? And here we can just pass in the words, the context, which is what we're going to be passing to our LLM. All right. Someone have his or hand raised. Okay,
Yes, I
very good. Don't
wanted to
forget, if you have any question again, just do well to.
yes, I wanted to ask
Okay, go ahead.
make a contribution. So when you're writing your
Okay.
system prompt, um, you're going to define the values or the context. Supposing you want the chatbot to search the net to get information that is not within the context you upload. Is it possible?
Hello.
I don't know if you get my question. Supposing there is a
Sorry, I didn't get the last part.
okay, I'm saying supposing the chat box doesn't have answers based on the uploaded files. Okay, can you also pass a system prompt that it can look up similar answers or information from the web to be able to answer the question instead of saying I don't know?
Yes, so that's very much possible, and that was why I said that your system prompt is very important, because it basically determines how creative your LLM is going to give your output, right? So currently, what we're trying to build is we're trying to build a RAG application, which means that our chatbot will only ask a question based off of the context that we're giving it, which is the PDF file. Obviously, if you want to be creative, we can tell it to, if it does not know the answer or is not in the provided context, we can write the system prompt to be more structured and tell it to actually search the web or provide the answer based off of the user's question in case it is not provided in the context. But currently, we're just trying to build something that is basically restricted to only the RAG application only. So I hope I got to answer your question. But yeah, thanks for that contribution. So guys, again, if you want to be creative, please go ahead to be creative with your system prompt. Um, I'm sure you must have learned about system prompt engineering, especially if you're using ChatGPT in your day-to-day activity. You should basically know how all of this work, right? So next is let's just set up our UI configuration, which is going to be configuration. We're doing the system prompt right here. So what we need in our UI configuration is our page title. And this is just Streamlit stuff. If you know how to use Streamlit, you would understand what all of this means, right? So setting our page title, I will name it PDF. So let's just put string right here. We'll name it PDF, Q and A, rag system, right? Then also we need to pass in our page icon. So all these ones are just default stuff that you can actually skip. But I really love configuring my streamed application very well. So we can just use like a sort of book. Let me see if I can just put in. Let me just copy like a book sign for you guys. You can use whatever icon you want to use, but right here we can just use. If you want to use an icon, you can import an asset. So if you want to be more structured, you can have like something that is called right here. You can create a new folder, name it assets, and right here, if you want to put images in your application, you can go ahead to do all of that, right? But currently, we're not going to be putting any assets, so let's just leave that for now. If you need any assets, we'll go ahead to create a folder for that. So now that we have our page icon, let's go ahead to create our app title. So our application title, right, will be equals to PDF rack application. And we can also add that book right here, just to be more creative, right? So right here, you can also put the app description. Now, the reason why this is important is because when you deploy your streamed application and you copy your link and send it to someone, so you know those default stuff that pops up when you paste the link, right? It's going to also appear here. So that's why we need to also configure this, right? And I'm teaching you all of this because of best practice, not just to just build the project, but in case you want to build projects for someone else or for complaints, these are the standard measure that you should be taking and you should also take place, right? So next, let's have our setup environment to check up that this environment are working fine, right? So we can just have like a default environment that basically checks. So have a function um, for setting up our environment. Right. And basically, what this does is we can just write something that basically say that we want to check if all of these particular keys that we imported are working fine when we run the application, right? So right here, we'll just have os.environment. We'll have LangChain v2, but obviously we also want to check if the LangChain API key is not available, right? Don't mind my copilot. It's always helping me to do stuff that I don't access. So we're going to check also if LangChain. So if LangChain API key is not available, um, make sure that we set it again. Also, same thing for the LangChain project. Same, but you can actually ignore all of this. This is just to make sure that it's being set, and we can also see it in the logs when we are running our application that okay, this is working. And also, we can also like write a function that just say okay, in case this does not work, right? We can say write a condition that prints that print tracing status for debugging, right? Some people used to skip this step, but it's just so that you know that it's working, right? So for example, if we tracing is enabled, you print out it's enabled, but if not, you say tracing is disabled, right? So but what we can do, right, you can also make this much more cleaner and do something like this. And also right here, instead of just writing tracing is disabled, we're going to just tell the user that okay, Alpha, you need to actually go ahead to set your tracing from your application, because obviously you know that whatever tracing that you put right here is coming from your environment variable. But in case the user does not go ahead to add all of this, you can just display it so that the user knows that he or she needs to add his tracing model. I can do the same for LangChain key, for LangChain project and OpenAI API key also. It depends on you. So that's pretty much it for these settings, right? That's pretty much it for these settings. Now, what we can do right now is we can now move on to go ahead to create our UI components, right? So our UI components, let's go ahead to create our sidebar first. Sidebar is actually more easier. So the components we have sidebar and chat interface. Our chat interface is going to be like also simple, but it's going to be like a lot of codes, right? Because of how it's being structured. And don't forget that when the user enters first, they see this, and when they upload a document and it's being transformed, embedded, it now goes ahead to show something like this, right? So that's why it's going to be like a lot. But let's just go with the sidebar. So the sidebar is just this what we have right here. Put in bring up the topic that we have. You remember we already have the title already set up in our configuration right here. So all we need to do right now is just to load in all of these guys. I'm going to load in the OpenAI API key. We'll load in the available models, we'll load in the default chunk size and all of this. We'll just bring that right here in our sidebar. Okay, and how do we go ahead to do that? So right here, we're going to say, so this is 4, it's supposed to be 3. We're going to say this is sidebar UI component for settings and file upload, right? So what do you need to do here? Right here, we'll just import OS, our operating system. We'll also import Streamlit as S because it's Streamlit that we'll be using for the application, this Streamlit interface. And with Streamlit, it's very, very much easier to actually create UIs right now, not like before, whereby you go ahead to create HTML, CSS, then JavaScript, validate, and all of that, right? But with Streamlit, and you can check out the Streamlit documentation. Obviously, they've made a huge update. So check out Streamlit documentation. I started using Streamlit like 4 years ago, and trust me, they've made huge updates. You can now go ahead to do some cool stuff that were not even possible like a few years ago in Streamlit, and you can just go ahead to play around with it, read documentation. And one of the cool parts is you can also visualize data. You can now go ahead to add CSS if you want to add CSS to your Streamlit. I mean, they have this date picker. They have some cool components that they've already rebuilt. You can see the selector, and we're going to use this also for going ahead to put like more configurations, right? Because they now have color picker, which is really, really amazing, and Streamlit is actually doing a great work. And we're going to actually use this drag and drop files. I'm going to use this also, which is the file uploader. And you see how Streamlit is actually doing like a lot of cool works, and there are default templates too. You can see LLMs. It now works with LLMs and all of that. You can play around with that and see how it works, right? Pretty much once you do a Google research or you prompt your chatbot to assist you, you'll be good to go, right? So you can see Streamlit home, Streamlit.io home dash LLMs, right? Um, this cool spinner. Everything is actually built by Streamlit. Like it's created by this guy. In case you want to do some sort of contribution and the likes. I really love checking out that profile because they're actually doing a very, very amazing work. Um, and guys, some of these people are just doing it just to contribute to open source community. Also, same thing. I do the same thing. Go to projects, contribute to open source, and this is also a way of growing in in the industry. Also, in case you love contributing to open source, so you can see this student assistant ask question, and you can see we're going to do something like this too, right? Because if you notice, we have something like that. And basically, I'm telling you all of this because I've done research and I've done proper research and I've structured everything accordingly. So you also need to do all of that. It's not just you don't just wake up and everything just comes, right? You need to read and do all of that. And you can see here right here related links, and this is what Val also commented on. So for example, if you ask a question and the chatbot doesn't know your answer, you can actually go ahead to add some links like this so that you can just click on it and it takes you to the documentation, right? But for now, we'll just focus on building end-to-end in-depth intuition of RAG application system, answering question based off of what you asked only, right? So just check it out. You can just check it out, follow him. 36K, 38,000 total app reviews, right? So let's continue. So we go to our settings. Let's continue for our settings. Right here, we already have our Streamlit imported. So let's go to import our configuration. And how do we do that? We say from src, right, dot, and here we are going down into our config. And from our config, we are going into our settings, obviously. Then we're going to import. I'm going to import open underscore API key. Let's just make sure we're importing that very well. We're going to import this. All right. Sidebar. We're supposed to get like an auto completion right here. Okay. Sorry, this is supposed to be a bracket. Uh, okay, very good. So import OpenAI API key. Oh, okay, very good. Then we also need to import available models. Good. Now we're getting the auto completion. Now we need to also import default chunk size. Default chunk size. We need to import default comma. Don't forget comma. Also need to import default chunk overlap. We import default temperature that we added, and lastly we'll just import the default k size, k chunks exactly. So this is just the thing that we need to import for this our sidebar component, because if you agree with me, we have that right here, and these advanced settings also. We're going to do all of that, right? So now what we're going to do right now is we're just going to go ahead to create like a render function that basically render all of these components that we have right here. So all the settings, all the these settings, OpenAI API key, this header that we have right here. I'm going to import all of that for this sidebar only. All right. So right here, we can go ahead to start and just create a function. And the reason why we're doing all of this is because we need to make them reusable so that in case we want to use them somewhere else. For example, imagine you have a multi-page application. You would want to make sure that you are importing them. You have a multi-page application. You want to make sure that the sidebar is reusable so that you can import them wherever you want to import it in. All right. So right here we have dev and we have render underscore sidebar. Right. So what this is going to do is just going to render the sidebar for us, right? So for this dev render sidebar, we need to actually just let's just add comment here to just talk about what it's going to do, right? And right here we'll just say this is a render, and I'm doing this because of people that are not in class right now, or people that I want to go ahead to review this code. They would be able to understand that, oh, this is what is going on right here. So we have render the sidebar UI components with settings. And let me check. We also have with settings, and we have the file upload also. And we'll just put file upload. And also, writing comment actually makes sense because when your copilot is trying to autocomplete for you, it reads your comment and it understands what you are trying to do. So, for example, now if I say um, add two numbers together and I click enter, um, let's see if my copilot is going to help me. Oh, it does not even help me. Or if I say sum, let's see, it's going to help me. Is equals to 1 plus 1, something like that, because it has understood that I wrote this comment right here, and it's going to go ahead to give me the suggestion. But this does not make sense actually, right? So what I'm just trying to tell you is if you write comments in your code base, it will be very much helpful for your copilot to also assist you with that. So yeah, what is this function going to return? Because we need to know what this function is going to return, right? So I'm going to say returns, and right here we can just say it's going to return a dictionary. And what this dictionary is going to do? Did I just run this code? Control C. Oh, let me delete this. I didn't run this. Okay. So yeah, it's going to run a dictionary. And what is this dictionary going to contain? It's going to contain the configuration dictionary with all the settings. So whatever the user tries to pick from this place, put the it's going to return put the API key, right? The API key that the user is going to pass. It's going to return the model that the user is picking, the advanced settings, also the uploaded file. It's going to return all of that for us, right? So let's go ahead to start that since we already know what this is going to return right now. So obviously to use the sidebar, we know that we use the with keyword, and we say with st dot we're going to create sidebar right here. I hope you guys are following me in the chat. If you are following me, kindly give a thumbs up. All right. Okay, very good. So we have with st dot sidebar, then we create our header, and this header is going to be what we're going to call it. Okay, thank you very much. Settings, and this settings is just what we're going to have right here, for example. All right, so let's go ahead to look for this settings icon so that we just have the same thing, just like we have in the screenshot. All right, so let me just put this, and right here I can just paste it. Right, settings key icon. Very good. Now that we have that, let's go ahead to put in our API key. Right, so our API key right now, API underscore key, right, will be equals to what? St dot text, nope, st dot text input, um, and right here we'll just say open API keys. This, then the value is whatever API key that we have right there. In case the API key is not configured in the environment, it's not going to get filled. But in case it's configured in the environment, it's going to get filled. And we'll just make it that the type is password, right? And we can also add a help text right here. Stream it as like this cool function where you can write a help text in case you are confused on what it does. And once you just over, you'll see that help text that shows enter your OpenAI API key, or we can tell them or set it in the .env file, right? So you can press Alt Z to also collapse your text in case it's overlapping. So let's say you have something like this right now, you can just press Alt Z and it's going to like break it down, right? But yeah, we have our API key configured right now. What we need to do next is we need to check if the API key is actually available, because we don't want our application to crash anytime. So we're going to say if API key, right? If API key, then we're going to set the environment API key to be this for whatever the user enters, so that the value will be modified. Um, right. So if that is done fine, then we can now go ahead to check for the models, right? So let's do for the model selection right now. So right here we can do for model selection, and that model selection is just basically what we have right here. All right. So right here we'll be able to map through the available models and return that. And right here in stream it, how can you do drop down? All you need to do is just to say your model is equals to select model. um So basically, same thing exactly. Select your model, and we're mapping to the available models that we configured in our settings. Don't forget, our available models is this right here. So it's going to map through this. And what we're saying right here is we're just saying that okay, once you map through that, the index 0 is basically going to be defaulted as the model that's going to be picked, right? And in case this user needs to understand, oh, what's this model for, we can just display select the OpenAI model to use for the chat. So that's pretty much simple for that, for the model. And what we can do right now is we can now do for the advanced settings, right? So for the advanced settings, what we're going to do is we're going to allow the user to take in the chunk, to pass in the chunk size, play around with the chunk size, the chunk overlap, temperature, and the K chunk, right? So let's go ahead to do that. So we're going to do advanced settings. All right, and for this advanced settings, let's go ahead to add with sidebar, st.sidebar, and we're going to do you know what, since if you look at this, actually it's not actually a sidebar, it's actually something that is collapsible. So I think in Streamlit there's something that is called let me see, Streamlit expand. Let me just search for this first. So let's check if we can see something like that. So Streamlit does expander, very good. So let's see what this does. So Streamlit does expander, a single string, blah blah blah. So example, let's see how the example looks like. Something loading right here. Okay, the page is still loading. But with this expander, I hope this is what we're looking for, because we need something that will be able to expand down and up so that the user can go ahead to configure those advanced settings. Because so let's just wait for that to load. But let's go ahead to use it because I'm seeing expander through initialize expander state default to false, which is collapsed. So this is what we're looking for actually. So you can do st dot expander. Okay, you have that right here. St dot expander, and right here we'll name it advanced settings because that's what we have. Let me see this loaded. Because that's what we have right here, right? Advanced settings. And under the advanced settings, we can just go ahead to pass in the chunk size, ch, right? ch and k. Chunk size, we will pass in s dot. We don't want to take number inputs, right? Because this does not make sense. We can just allow the user to do slider, so that the user can just slide between between the values just to pick up the values, right? So right here, we'll just name this chunk size, chunk, and right here we can say the minimum value is we can say 500 actually, and the maximum value is, let's say, 2000, because that's like times two value of what we are using. And the value would be defaulted to the default chunk size, which is what I think it's 2000 that we set right here. Sorry, default, sorry, 200 rather. And yeah, that will be good to go from there. All right. So next, we also have our chunk overlap. Chunk underscore overlap. We need to do that also. And here also we can use editor slider. Minimum value will be 0, maximum value will be 500. We also need our temperature, and we also need our what, k chunks. Very good. So this is what we need for our advanced settings basically. uh, then we have PDF uploader, but you can see we have this line right here. So in this in Streamlit, there's something that is called st.divider, right? So what this does is it just add lines for you, just like what we have right here. All right. So now that we have that correct in place, sorry, let's go ahead to do our file uploader, right? The file upload right now, what we need to do right here is just to do st.header. We have upload files, and right here we'll just allow Streamlit to process the upload file for us. Accept multiple files. We can leave that to true, or we can put it to false actually. So right here we're going to accept only PDF because it's PDF we are working with. So st.file uploader, upload files, accept multiple files. Let's just put it to false. So we're just taking only one file, right? Now, after the user uploads file, now we also need to validate that before we actually return our output. So we need to say, okay, if uploaded files, then we can say success file uploaded successfully. But we can't just write this, because if you look at this very well, you see that we have file uploaded successfully with the name that was actually there. So you can just say loaded instead of this. And here we can use f string, right? Remember I talked about f string in our Python refresher course. So, and right here we can just say uploaded and we'll put file name. So we can remove this else, and what we can do right here, let's see. Oh, sorry, we need to close this right here too. Very good. So file uploaded successfully, and we can actually show like a green mark, just like what we did here, right? Just this green mark. So we can say loaded. Oh yeah, we can keep it like this. Uploaded file. Well, it's taking one file, not double file. Just one file. Very good. So we have like loaded the uploaded file, and we have something like this exactly. And here we can say the info of the size also, right? We can say st.info, and we can also display the size name, because the size you can see right here we have like 512 kilobyte or thereabouts. So you can just put st.info, We put f string right here also, and we'll say size is what, we'll just use um, our f string. We'll just say is what uploaded. So we'll say the uploaded file right here dot size, right? Because you can grab hold of this by from streamlit function, and we'll just say divided by 1024, right? Because that's what we're going to be showing it in kilobytes, and you can turn it to two decimal place. So that's why we have dot 2f right here. That's two decimal place, and right here we just show that it's in KB, right? So what we just have currently is when the user upload the file, we're going to have like the name of the file, then the size of the file also. It's just a cool way of showing the user that, hey, after this document that you uploaded, this is what you did, right? And right here, we just need to return the model. We also need to return the API key, which is right here, the API key, right? So from this function right here, so we're going to return the API key, which is what we passed right here at initials. We return the model, which is the model the user is going to pick. Return the chunk size, the chunk overlap, the temperature, the k chunks, and the uploaded file. So now that we have our sidebar open, I think we are good to go with this for the sidebar. So what we need to do right now is we just need to go ahead to create the UI for the chat interface. All right. We have about 8 minutes left. So for the chat interface, actually, we would also need to write some default function, but I wouldn't want to waste much of our time. I think we can stop here right now. And tomorrow we're going to look at how we can continue with our chat interface, um, um, our chatbots, and all of this cool stuff, right? But let me just go ahead to upload this code for you guys right now. So I'm going to create a new file right here, and I'm going to name it .git ignore, and I'll just paste what we did yesterday back here. So I'm going to paste that right here. So it's going to ignore all of that, and let's do our git init. Once we have our git init, then our project should be tracked.
Hello, Mr. Dave. There's a question.
Um,
There's a question in the chat box.
okay. So let me say my chatbot is designed to help customer using sensitive data like their finance or health. How do I make sure that the system is secured? So who asked this question? I think I don't know, your name is not right here. But basically, if you have like a chatbot to design to help customer using sensitive data like the finance or health, how do you make sure that the system is actually secured? I would say that depends, right? So for example, if you want to make sure that it's very secured, obviously the first thing that you need to know is um, you need to make sure that you have like top level security principles. For example, your API keys, right? You must make sure that you're not exposing any API keys for the user, right? Also, you need to also ensure end-to-end encryption, right? So you protect data and also manage the keys success securely. Those are very, very important. And again, I would say it also depends on how you create your RAG application system. Also, there's something that's called redacted. You can go ahead to redact any relevant information that is displaying from the user response, right? So those are just the basic security measures that you need to take. But it depends on actually how you are building those platforms also, right? So just make sure you prioritize security, make sure that you're not you can also put this in the prompt engineering that okay, make sure that you don't reveal relevant information like this, maybe that email. If you see anything like email, put asterisks. You can actually put all of that in the chat prompt, and you are going to be good to go. All right. But I have an assignment for you guys. But before I go ahead to give you guys the assignment, um, coming. All right, so let me go ahead to push this. Let me just go ahead to create a new repo for that. And I'm going to go ahead to push this code so that you guys can go ahead to go through it and try to understand it in case you want to go to for tomorrow's class, right? Um, so our ENV is not being pushed just to confirm more than once because it's very important. Yeah, I think we are good to go from here. Our README, and we're going to update this later on, right? I think we are good to go to push from here. All right, so let's just go ahead to create a new repo. We can come here. Sorry, this is still loading. Let's just wait for it to load. Sorry, let's just give it more time. Let me just refresh. It's just that sometimes network here is always. But yeah, so I'm going to be sending the assignment to the group, to the Discord channel. Just make sure that you are active in there. So let me go ahead to create this for you guys so that I can paste the PDF format right there for you guys. Wow, this load is finished. Okay, so my network is actually very slow right now. But you know what we're going to do? Let's go ahead to commit some of these files. Let's add this, add git ignore. But what I would want to do is I won't just want to just add all of this. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to rename my branch. So git branch dash m, we'll name it to main. No, to main, main. Then we can clear this, and what we'll do is we'll check out to a new branch for project setup. So we can do git checkout dash b origin, git checkout dash b, not origin now, and let's just say feature, and we'll name it project setup. Right, so yeah, right here we can go ahead to push all of this project setup right there because this is just the project setup, right? And we can merge to main. So in case you want to fall back, want to do any project again for the project setup, you can go ahead to always use that branch whenever you want to use this. Has it created already? It's still loading. So let's add all of this requirement.txt. Why am I getting this error always? So let's go ahead to say repository, and let's continue our commit right here. So again, please make sure to go ahead to go through this image that we created. Let me see if it's possible to share with you guys. If it's possible, I'm just going to share it with you guys as soon as I get the link. So let me see. Can I share? Yeah, so I can share with you guys, so you guys can go ahead to play around with it. Just to go through. So anyone with this link can just view. You guys should just view. Copy it in. So I'm going to send this to the community. Once they get it, they'll review and they will send it to you guys. So one day I'll be sending it to you right now. So I'll just make sure that everything is working fine. I'll be good to go from there. All right. So let's create this also. All right, sent. So let's commit this, and here let's just create a new repository. Where is it? Very good. So let's just wait for that to load. Sidebar components done. Um, so here we're going to name it what? I think we are good to name it PDF rag app. PDF dash rag dash app. Um, and the description, we can just go into our settings. One sec. Our configuration actually. Let's open um, our settings. So the description is just this. Let's continue this. Good. Let's add for PDF rec. This. So commit. Then the last one. Let's commit that. All right. Good. All right. So now let's go ahead and add this URL. And we can go ahead to publish this branch, right? So once you publish this branch, we can just refresh. Um, oh, what just happened? All right, good. So we have this right here, and let's check out the main. No main branch. Okay, I know what's wrong right now. So basically, yeah, we are good to go from here, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say check out. I was supposed to push the README, right? But let me go ahead to publish this branch too. So, but you guys can go ahead to access this from here. Let me go ahead to drop it in the community. Okay, you can go ahead to review the code and you will be good to go, right? Okay, it is loading. Yep, so I guess that's pretty much it. For those that want to access the the diagram that we created, you can go ahead to access it. Let me just share it with you guys also. And yeah, you can just go ahead to read it in case you want to go through it and things of that nature. But I think with that being said, that's just all from my end. I would hand over to staff. Push the code already. You can go ahead. I mean, you're going to see everything that we just did for the utils that we just created. Everything is right there. You can also play around with it and see how it goes, right? I'm also going to be sending you assignments in PDF format. So make sure you check out your assignments. You'll be tasked to build like a chatbot. So just make sure you go through that PDF and submit it before 12 o'clock p.m. tomorrow. So yeah, I'll hand over to Aishat, one dev, Val, Abdul, anyone to go ahead to take over now. Thank you.
Wow. Mr. Dave, thank you so much. In fact, I really give you kudos to have engaged this class for 2 hours and still have the energy to continue. This is amazing. This is amazing, my brother. Thank you so much for this class. And just for your information, um, for the final assignment, we are expected to give them a mini project to build, and those who are able to successfully build the mini project and submit it is one of the criteria for issuing certificate of participation on our bootcamp program. So if anybody who is interested in receiving the certificate, you should be able to participate in the assignment. Please, I'm informing everybody, whenever the assignment is given, attempt to do it. If you have any challenges, if you have problem not executing it or not achieving the assignment, please kindly flag it in the community. If your fellow students cannot help out, your facilitator, the tutor, would come in and help you. Please don't fail to call out where you need help. This is how to learn. And the learning process here is community based. Just like Mr. Dave said, it's open source. Please, if you have information, push it out to the community so that people can learn together. That is the essence of having this community together. We'll be doing our graduation celebration on Thursday, and we intend to invite a special guest from NVIDIA to come and give us 30 minutes talk. So for those who would be interested in continuing their pursuit for a career in AI engineering, you will hear from people who are already in the industry, who are, you know, interacting with some of these top level organizations that build models, so that you get to have an insight into what the industry looks like. So please, I want you to keep a date. Tomorrow is the last day for the class, but next tomorrow we are going to have a special celebration where mentors from the industry will come to talk to the class. Thank you, Mr. Abdul. Mr. Abdul, are you there? Yeah, Wema, you can go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to ask because I have 2 days like I've missed the class. Now I'm trying to catch up, but I'm a bit slow because I'm working with other projects. But I really want to graduate. I really want to participate. I want to be there that day when the celebration will be there. So I was asking, is there a timeline of doing the assignment, like, because I'm quite behind. I'm just trying to catch up everything. So I was asking, like, is there a specific time for submitting the assignments? And then I also want to raise an issue with my community. I've been trying to participate. I'm an active person in the community, but unfortunately I don't know my server. Every time when I'm joining the community, I'm told my server is not I claim my server, something of sort. And when I try to claim, I'm told the email has already registered. So I'm having issues now. I don't know how I'm going to be helped on that.
Um, Discord server, right?
Yes.
Okay. Probably are you in the Telegram community?
No, no.
Wow. So I'm going to send our social media links so that we can interact from there. Because once this class ends, the link ends here. So some of these issues you have, we can handle them. Someone can help you walk through reclaiming your email for your Discord server. Then for the assignment will come tomorrow. That's the final submission, and we will be giving at least maximum of 48 hours to build the application. So we have till Saturday to give the final submission. and the graduation celebration can happen for everybody, but the issuing of the certificate is based on those who submitted their final assignment. So you have till Saturday to do that. Mr. Abdul, or any other person that has questions?
Yeah, Mr. Valerian, like I said, you have said it all actually. I also wanted to rehash on the submission and involvement in class and also on our community. So please, Mr. Valerian will be dropping the link. Make sure that you follow us on all our social media handles. Just be active, post, share your issues, and of course, we'll be there to help you. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abdul. Wema, I have sent the social media links, so please, you can connect with us on Telegram or Instagram or even WhatsApp. So, but it's important to join the Telegram and the Discord channel. So, since you're having a problem with Discord, I can also drop my account. You can connect with me, then I will figure out how to fix your Discord so that you can join the community. Please, if you have any questions pertaining to this topic or in general, what we've done since the beginning of this class, Mr. Dave is still here to attend to our questions. I like students who ask questions because you get to understand better when you ask questions. Okay, thank you, Lynn. Mr. Dave, there's a question. Hello, Mr. Dave. What is the importance of chunk overlap? So, from my little knowledge, um,
Yes.
if
I
you
see
have
me.
if you have a text of about 1,000 chunks, and you need to give an allowance of probably 20 characters. The 1,000 character is the limit. So your system cuts off 1,000 characters. But if it starts the counting from another 1,000, possibly there could have been missed characters in between your total, let's say, documents. So that
Mm-hmm.
overlap gives you an opportunity to for your system to pick from the continuing document instead of jumping one document or items within your document. That's the understanding I have. Mr. Dave, over to you.
Yes, so that's correct actually. And just take a look at chunk overlap. It basically means that when you like split a long document into smaller pieces, that's chunks, right? And you allow some sentence or token to repeat at the end of one chunk and the beginning of the next. So what it means is it takes some information from the previous chunk that was splitted, takes like the 200 characters, last 200 characters, if you split by chunk overlap, and add it to the new chunk that you're creating. So what that does is it basically prevents loss of important context, right? Because trust me, if you basically add chunk overlapping to your file that you're trying to build, it's actually important in giving model more context about what you are doing, and it also helps to improve relevant search accuracy, which I'm going to talk about once we get there in tomorrow's lecture. So yes, I hope you get to understand. You can also read some more documentations on job overlapping on LangChain documentation, and you'll be good to go. So thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Dave. Um, I don't know if you've heard about VAPI,
Okay, so what's spelling?
VAPI.
Oh, VAPI.
Yes, it's
Yes,
basically
like the voice API. That what you're talking about.
yes, exactly. It's a voice API. So it's basically
Yeah.
building like a chat box. But this time around, you're not building it from the scratch like we are doing right now. So there is a kind of tools that can help you
Mm-hmm.
uh, generate your system prompts, choose your models. The models are already there, just like an already made tool for you to build a chat box on without even having to write
Yeah.
codes by yourself.
Yes, actually. But also, I think I've seen it before, but I just know that the limitations right there is just it does not give you that full flexibility to build from
Exactly,
scratch and tweak most of those things yourself. Yeah. But
exactly.
it is something that is definitely worth trying out.
Okay, I'll share the link in the community too, so that people can. Is basically what you're talking about right now, but we are building the application, the tool by ourselves. Meanwhile, this is already made that you can tweak one or two system prompts to give you the same result without even writing any code. So I think we have done justice for today's topic. In the absence of any other questions or contributions, I would like us to call it a day. Same time tomorrow, 6 p.m. West African time, 8 p.m. East African time. See you guys. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you. I wish you all the best.